But they do have to follow transportations.
Yeah.
All right, good afternoon. We're going to call our meeting to order. It is 1:03. If you would take the roll.
Joe,
Here.
Mr. Pearson,
Here.
Ms. Wise,
Here.
Mr. Buswell,
Here.
Ms. Tomcho. Yes. Ms. Ruth Hawkins. Mr. Gardner,
Here.
Dr. Campbell,
Here.
Ms. Anderson.
Here.
Chairman.
We have quorum. I'm going to introduce Galen Stupick. She's going to provide her invocation. So if you would stand, she's a friend of mine. She is part of a women's ministry team that helps pray for those who are incarcerated in the jails and in the prisons. And so she's offered to come pray for us today.
Thank you for inviting me, Brian. So I do just want to say thank you for your service, for your time here. I know you don't get paid well to be here, but I thank you. We have this little problem with creativity that seems to have disappeared in our culture, and I point to the education system as it's always been, and I love that you're giving people an opportunity to change that. So thank you for your service and your time here. And right now, I just want to pray. I pray right now that you who have gathered here today, that you are role models for good civil conversation, and that sound arguments and decisions are born of wisdom. I pray too that you remember that we are one nation under God, that our children are our inheritance, not just for our parents, for their parents, but also for their communities, the future of Oklahoma and the future of this nation. And Heavenly Father, we just thank you right now that we are able to gather together as citizens in this nation, that we can come together with better ideas and education, and under this board have a direction so that we know the trees that bear good fruit. And we just thank you right now that Oklahoma is continuing to bear good fruit. In Jesus' precious name, amen.
Join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Salute the flag of the state of Oklahoma. It symbols the peace unite all people. And we'll take a moment of silence. All right, we'll get started. Well, welcome everybody. Glad everyone's here. Excuse me. All right, we will start with action item 3, discussion of possible action regarding the minutes of February 9th, 2026 regular board meeting. Second. Call for a vote.
Dr. Campbell,
Yes.
Mr. Pearson,
Yes.
Ms. Anderson.
Yes.
Mr. Gardner,
Yes.
Ms. Wise.
Yes.
Mr. Sherman,
After you didn't get
Yes.
Ms. Tomcho.
a little different language.
Yes.
Mr. Rick Hoskins. Mr. Chairman, motion carries.
Motion carries. Moving on to items 4. I don't have a lot to say other than I got to spend some time over the last month up in DC. And again, I'm reminded of obviously the magnitude, the architecture and stuff, but we went to the Veterans Memorial for the Korean War, and standing there, you know, those guys hoisting up that flag on there was really monumental to me in realizing there's people who have fought and bled and died for our country and our freedoms, and we need to continue to fight for what is right. And there are times, you know, we all know that there's times in our history where we've gotten it wrong, but we as Americans continue to strive for a more perfect union. And so I know that there's controversial things that we've been discussing, we will continue to discuss, but we will be here in education trying to continue to hoist that flag up for freedom. So that's really all I have to say. And again, thank you for all your hard work. We'll continue to move on. Item 5, do we have any public comments today? No public comments. Okay. Item 6, our board spotlight for the 2026 Oklahoma Teacher of the Year finalist, Tracy Grunewald of Oklahoma Virtual Charter Academy. I am excited to hear about this phenomenal teacher.
Today's Sports Spotlight recognizes an Oklahoma first, a first not just for Oklahoma education, but for our charter sector too. Each year, Oklahoma's Teacher of the Year finalists represent the very best in the teaching profession. And we are proud that one of those finalists this year is Tracy Grunewald of Oklahoma Virtual Charter Academy. She is the first virtual charter school teacher ever selected as a finalist for Oklahoma Teacher of the Year. And we believe, though we have not been able to confirm, that she is the first charter school teacher who's been named a finalist while serving in a charter school. Tracy's recognition also reflects something that we wanted to underscore today before her head of school and she come to the podium. And that is to point out that our charter school teachers are serving students who on average are more economically disadvantaged and diverse than the students in the neighboring traditional districts. But these charter educators on average are delivering stronger academic outcomes for those students than those of the neighboring traditional districts. So today, we want to celebrate Tracy Grunwald as an outstanding educator and as a representative of dedication, innovation, and impact of the charter school teachers across Oklahoma. So now I'm going to turn the microphone over to Audra Plummer, her head of school, who wants to heap some praise on her too before she turns the microphone over to Tracy. So Audra.
Good afternoon. My name is Audra Plummer, and I serve as the head of school of the Oklahoma Virtual Charter Academy. And I'm honored to be here today to celebrate Tracy and share a little bit about OVCA. Since 2011, OVCA has been pioneering virtual education in Oklahoma. Today, we serve more than 4,300 students, including 1,500 high school students, many of whom Tracy serves each day. As a school, we continually look for ways to strengthen virtual education by delivering a rigorous curriculum, maintaining high expectations, building meaningful relationships, and supporting the whole child through intentional engagement and socialization opportunities. OVCA is proud to employ Oklahoma certified teachers who are highly qualified in their content areas, and so it was a great honor that I recognize one of those outstanding educators today. For more than 9 years, Tracy has served OVCA students with passion, expertise, and genuine care. She has an exceptional ability to connect with students, build their confidence, and challenge them to reach beyond what they believe is possible. She is that high school math teacher, so she's going to share a little bit about that. She understands that their potential exceeds further than they often realize, and she walks alongside with them every step of the way. It is my privilege to introduce Tracy Grunewald, an exceptional educator and top 10 finalist for Oklahoma State Teacher of the Year, who represents the heart of Oklahoma Virtual Charter Academy.
Thank you for having me today. I came to OVCA after my first grandchild was born. I was looking for some flexibility, but what I found instead was some intentional learning. I had been discouraged, and I didn't feel like I was reaching students like I should be, or that our school was at all. So when I found OVCA, it was like a door opening for me. Virtual and charter can make people uneasy, but what I saw was something different. A school intentionally reaching students who were not thriving in a traditional school, the traditional school setting. I speak much better in front of high school about math,
Great.
so I'm sorry. My job is to teach high school mathematics, but my purpose is to do more than that. My goal is to teach students, get them ready for real life, get them ready for beyond high school. I want to teach them responsibility, perseverance, and understanding that expectations really do matter. High school students get the chance to grow through mistakes. They get the chance to set deadlines or meet deadlines, set goals, and really learn to appropriately respond to feedback. And that's something that matters. At OVCA, I have the autonomy to push students while still supporting them. Some students need just a little push. Some of them needs to be a little firmer, and it varies day by day. All students need a push of some sort. One of the strengths of OVCA is our wraparound support model. No teacher carries a student by themselves. We have community family advisors, engagement specialists, the administration, our special services, special education services, our co-teachers, and sometimes even our tech support really reach out and touch each and every student and each and every family. And together we move those students from non-engagement to participation, from failing to passing, and from enrollment to graduation. When people hear the word virtual school, they often imagine students just sitting behind a screen silent and not just kind of sitting there. That's not what my classroom is like. My classroom is structured, interactive instruction intentionally designed for the online environment. Students engage through whole room chat. They explain their reasoning. They build on one another's thinking. We solve problems together on a digital whiteboard. I can move students, or they come in and they're at their own little table, like they would be at a desk. And I can put them, I can turn it off so that they are working on their own, or I can move them so that they're together and working collaboratively. I can also hop from table to table and talk with them individually. And that preserves the dignity while helping them learn what they need to learn and holds them to their accountability. I structure the environment intentionally. Students may do that independent work. I also screen share sometimes. We're teaching, teaching trigonometry right now, and there are lots of parodies out there on SOHCAHTOA. And so I help those students kind of get that in their head, internalize that, and I am able to get a song stuck in their head for the rest of the day. I use assessment deliberately. We use polls only to check their understanding. I don't like multiple choice in math. Sometimes students can work backwards, figure it out. So I don't know if they're really understanding the material or not. And so I want to know. I also keep track of their responses, so I know which students are learning the material and which students are not. I also see what the misconceptions are by watching what their answers are, and I can see that I need to reteach the entire lesson or that entire day, or I just need to pull students for certain intervention. Beyond the regular classroom, I also have 3 open help sessions a week, and I have 2 targeted intervention sessions. And we hit those missing or those gap standards that we have. I also have a co-teacher in 2 of my classes, and we work I've been told we really work well together. I think we do, but I have had other teachers ask to watch our recordings so that they can see how well we work together. We focus at OVCA, we focus intentionally on the foundations. In math, if you have a gap in Algebra 1, geometry can be hard. If you have a gap in your elementary or your middle school standards or your middle school skills, Algebra 2 can just be absolutely overwhelming. We analyze that data early, we give benchmarks, and right off the bat, we know what skills they're missing. And as a math department, and the English and history and science departments do this as well. But we figure out which standards we need to intervene on. And that way we get those kids before they fall even further behind, because foundations, it does matter. I'd like to share a story about a student with you. Several years ago, I had to take over a Algebra 1 class at semester break. And one of the students in that class, they they were immensely challenged with their Algebra 1. She froze. Her mother told me whenever I call on her, I don't cold call. I ask for volunteers, but whenever I ask questions where they have to give me, X equals 12, I have them do that in private chat. And if you don't answer me, then I let you know I'm waiting on your answer. And she would just freeze, or she would put be right back in the private chat, or away from keyboard, something like that. And she struggled. It was hard. And she wasn't doing her work at all. So by the end of the semester, she did fail Algebra 1. Then came geometry the next year, and that's what I teach generally. And her name was on my roster. And I thought, well, at least we know going in that we're going to have a struggle. And the first few weeks, that's what it was. She was not engaging in class, and she wasn't doing her homework. And we review algebra the first few weeks. But then all of a sudden, the geometry started clicking for her. She started answering in private chat, and she started answering in room chat. Then she started working out problems on our whiteboard. And eventually she got on the mic and she started explaining. She even went so far as to turn on her camera, which was a big deal. This young lady would have a panic attack when she was in brick and mortar, being surrounded by 25 or 30 of her peers. She just couldn't do it. But OVCA and being virtual gave her the space that she could grow, she could find the confidence while also learning some geometry. We didn't lower the expectations for her, and her mother told me that that year changed everything. She was asking deeper questions and answering them. I didn't lower my expectations. We just didn't. But she had the room to meet those because she had the opportunity to find that confidence. My philosophy is simple. Every student deserves an environment where they are supported, they are challenged, and they are truly seen. If expectations are clear and support is layered, then growth is possible. And when structure and relationships are strong, then students do rise. I have seen students who once felt overwhelmed find stability. I have seen students who doubted themselves begin to believe that they are capable. And when that belief takes effect, when it takes root, trajectories will change. If virtual education is designed with rigor and intention, it does not lower the bar. It just removes some barriers. It creates space for those students to rebuild those foundations and regain that confidence and take ownership in their learning. Virtual education is not an alternative. For some students, it is the opportunity, and for many, it is a last hope. I have seen it change the trajectory of a student's life, and once you witness that transformation, you do not walk away from it. You can't walk away from it because the future is counting on innovative schools like OVCA to continue opening those doors. It is an honor to represent virtual schools and charter schools as a Teacher of the Year finalist. Thank you. Do you have any questions for me? I was told I was supposed to ask.
I'm going to open it up to the board, but I do want to say a few things, and you exemplify one of our core values, which is excellence. And one of those things is understanding that results matter and striving for the highest standards in educational quality and outcomes. And I think we record all these, and hopefully there's teachers watching, because I think you hit on some really key points of what it means to be a great teacher.
Thank you.
Maybe Courtney, you can chime in here. She's our, from the SDE over here. She's our representative. But I think you exemplify what it means for great teachers, and really you can't replace a great teacher. I think all of us probably have those teachers in our minds and our hearts that really spoke to us. And, you know, they say teachers aren't salespeople, but really you are selling hope. You are delivering hope to these kids. And it's always fun to watch their faces light up when they get it. So thank you for the work you're doing, and I'll open
Thank
up
you.
to the rest of the board as well.
Yes, sir.
In your environment, are you able to apply practical applications with the math that you're teaching?
I live on a ranch, and we use a lot of, if I'm understanding correctly, we use a lot of, hey, I've got this pasture out here that I need to fence off, and this is what it needs to look like. And so how much fencing do I need to buy? I also ask a question, which water tank would be better for these fields? This field has this many head of cattle, and this has this many head of cattle, and this is what they'll drink. So tell me which one to do. So those being in Oklahoma, those are some of the things that I present to them that would be more practical. Some of them have to ask me what a horse tank is, but we get there. A picture usually does it. I also tell them my son is a welder, and he about once a month he calls me and says, "Mom, how long should this piece be? This is what it looks like. How long should it be?" And generally, before I get back to him, he has already discovered the answer. He's pretty bright about that, but he always wants that. He wants to make sure. And I do present those to my students, not on as much, the depth isn't there, because sometimes it gets really involved in what he asked me, but they understand that, this trig that we're doing, it really is important.
The reason I asked that question is, in hindsight, I consider myself very, very fortunate that I had a high school math teacher that was competent and very innovative. And I say that, and I asked the question because we had a situation where the school was building a new baseball park, a new softball park, and a football field. And we needed slope for the football field. And he showed up with a transit and a very long measuring tape and took us outside, and we laid that out. And
Cool.
Used the skills, techniques that he had been teaching us. And I look back on that constantly, how beneficial that was to me through my math career that I had.
It is. It is. I gave a project in Algebra 1 when I had those kiddos where they had to go out and measure steps and see whether or not it fit what the standard was. Here's what they're supposed to be. Do your steps at your house or on your porch, or find some steps somewhere, measure them and see if they're correct. Some of those older buildings, they came back and said, none of the steps are the same size. What do I do? But
Even rough construction, run and pitch, all of that can be utilized.
yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I'd like to reiterate, just thank you for everything you do for our students and your innovation and just going over and beyond for all of those different students and all their different needs.
Thank you so much.
Well, we expect great things. We expect you to finish top of the heap. So we're going to wish you the best of luck, and
Well,
we
thank
expect
you.
many more great things beyond your classroom. So thank you for what you're doing, investing in the
you.
next generation.
And thank you for being here, or for having me, and for being here.
All right, moving on to item 7, presentation and possible discussion regarding our statewide charter school board working groups. Let's start with our budget.
No report at this time.
All right. Communications
Nothing new for today.
and our governance. Do you have anything from Mr. Casas since he's not here today? or-
I do not. Session is in full swing over there, so we are making visits often and in conversations with legislators and watching the process.
Yeah, that's not always fun. Yeah, we were over there last week and it's interesting. Let's just say the least. So hopefully we can
I did meet with some legislators on both the House and Senate side about our rules, explaining different parts and answering their questions, and hopes that those rules will make its way on through the system and be approved.
And just in case any legislators are listening, we need our supplemental funding for Horizons.
We do.
You know, just if it's out there, we need it. You decide what you want to cut, right? Because all the students of Oklahoma need the Horizons. So it's not on us what they cut. It's up to them what they're gonna cut, right? So, all right, and Horizons.
Just a brief update, just a reminder that the inaugural Horizon Connect conference will be held March 25th at the Norman Embassy Suites Hotel Conference Center. There is no cost to attend. You do have to register online. You can do that at horizon.ok.gov/connect. It is a one-day conference. Food and beverage are provided, but you do have to register.
Okay, including us.
Yes, including
Yeah,
us.
yeah, we need to register. I'm excited for that. All right, moving on. Item 8A, presentation and possible discussion regarding the school year 24-25 annual performance framework report for Lamont International Charter School.
Yes, good afternoon. Gilson, I think I want to do that one second. Can you pull up the report I sent you just a little while ago? So I'm going to present Lamont International School's performance report and their charter renewal application guidance. Under Title 70, subsection 3-137B, it states that prior to the beginning of the final year of the contract term of a charter school, the sponsor shall issue a performance report and charter renewal application guidance to the charter school and its governing board. So Lamont International School is in Norman, and it holds a charter contract with the statewide charter school board. This contract was inherited from the State Board of Education on July 1st of 2024. Lamont's charter contract term is July 1st of 2022 to June 30th of 2027. This means that beginning on July 1st of 2026, the school will begin its final year of the charter contract. So the performance framework report before you today is intended to guide the school's renewal. The performance report shall provide notice of any weaknesses, concerns, violations, or deficiencies perceived by the sponsor concerning the charter school that may jeopardize its position in seeking renewal if not timely rectified. Lamont's overall performance framework index score for this year is 74.24%, and that was for the school year 2024-2025, the one that ended prior to 2025-2026 beginning. So because the score was 74.24%, an application for renewal is required as the threshold for determination is 75%. Strengths of the school's academic performance score are identified through growth shown on nationally normed NWEA internal assessment results. The students of Lamont reflected growth at all testable grade levels for all full academic year students in every category included in the report. Weaknesses were present in the overall proficiency on Oklahoma State testing program results. Additionally, although the scores for financial and organizational performance were moderately good, there were weaknesses in areas of timely submitting documents to the statewide charter school board, maintaining a healthy general fund balance, and low days cash on hand ratios. Additionally, the school was most recently accredited with warning by the State Department of Education. So the statewide charter school board will present this report and guidance to the school's governing board at an upcoming board meeting. And then further, the statewide charter school board will work with the school leaders and staff to effectuate the renewal application process through the online submission portal. For the academic performance framework, Lamont scored 56%. We can switch over to that index score page now if you want. They received 6.73 points out of a total of 12 points possible. The positive aspect of Lamont's academic performance was receiving 3 out of 3 points for the student growth on the nationally normed internal assessment categories. The rest of the criteria are comparisons of the school's OSTP results gathered from the school's single sign-on State Department of Education account. and comparing that to state and district proficiencies. The district comparison for Lamont was Norman Public Schools. These state and district scores are obtained from the publicly available school report card. The school only received 3.73 out of the remaining 9 points available, all related to OSTP performance. Quickly going over the financial and organizational performance frameworks, the school scored an 83.75 on the financial section, receiving 33.5 out of a total of 40 possible points. And they received a 90% on the organizational section, receiving 27.5 out of the total possible 32 points. Well, that concludes the report on Lamont International School's annual performance framework and renewal guidance. Happy to delve it down as deeply as you would like, though.
I'm gonna let the other board members ask first because I do have some pointed questions.
Before questions start, you might just want to speak a little bit to the 1.1.1 and 1.1.2, which is basically their reading and their math scores. The previous year score was significantly higher than the scores for this current year, but you might speak just a little bit that maybe those aren't exactly apples to apples comparisons, but has been a restructure of how OSTP assessments are scored.
Yes, I will do my
It
best.
doesn't account for every concern that we see here, but it's one piece of the puzzle.
I don't think I can explain it as well as our academic compliance officer, Dr. JC Smith, can, but I will say that, yeah, what she has explained to me is that the cut scores did change. And so there were scores last year that would have been reflected as being higher than the scores for this year based on where they drew that line in the sand. And so while we still feel like this is an accurate performance framework report, because we're still comparing the school to the state average, and the state average would also incorporate those same cut scores. And then we also give them the opportunity to beat their local public school district, in this case being Norman. It does make it much less likely that they would meet that third category, which is year over year growth, because in order to meet that, the students would have had to score significantly better, more than just a 5% with the same cut score. So I hope I explained that well enough.
Could I go to 1.1 current data? Now I'm looking at the third year, was 23.82 or 81%. And previous score year was 66.67. And that follows down to the fourth grade, follows down to the fifth grade. Significant difference between the previous year and the current. How do they justify that, in essence, 20% drop from one year to another?
I think that's a question that we're going to have to ask them to find out, what's going on with them. I did send the report to their superintendent, and I have no doubt that he's going to want to work directly with us to determine, why were there such significant drops? Because you can see, as you were kind of referring to, Bill, they did actually receive the points for their fourth, fifth, and sixth grade. But looking at that year over year comparison, for 2 out of the 3 of those categories, their overall score for grades 4 and 5 did decrease year over year.
If you can say it's good news, when they get to the state scores, they're actually they do beat those in the fourth, fifth, and sixth, and even the seventh year. So
Yeah,
A part of that difference is accounted for by the change in cut scores.
Yes.
From last year or the previous year to last year. But it still does not alleviate our concern that third grade reading is that significantly low.
Well, when I first looked at that, my first thought was, how much churn? By churn, I mean, are the same children that were in the third grade now in the fourth grade, and fourth graders now in the fifth grade? How much of the I guess the proper term is retention rate for those grades? Are they maintained?
Yeah, is there a whole nother cohort coming in that we're measuring?
Exactly. So they didn't get the framework or the basics at the third grade, and they're now in the fourth grade, but they came from, let's say, Oklahoma public school. Those are my thoughts.
I don't have the exact numbers, but for a school like Lamont, I would expect that their retention is pretty high. Being a dual language school, I think parents are really intentional about enrolling their kids in a school like that at a young age and planning to keep them there until they move on to generally middle school in this case.
Well, and
In our previous conversations with them, most of their concerns about mobility, students leaving, comes when their kids begin to hit middle school and they have to make that decision, knowing that the Lamont doesn't have a high school, as to when they might want their child to go ahead and transition to a different middle school in order to make friends to go on to high school. That's where we've had the conversations about mobility, not necessarily in these elementary years.
Mr. Gardenhire.
Well, I just was curious, do we have, and maybe I'm speaking out of turn, but do we have historical data from when they were, I think they were under the state board of ed, right?
Yes.
So do we have that?
Well, we've got the data here all the way back to contract year one. As far as their performance prior to that with their prior contract, I don't have that. I could ask for it.
So that's what I'm saying.
Yes.
I think it would be helpful to know what it looked like the total trajectory. I think it's important for us to ask the question as to why the decrease on our current contract. But this school has been around longer than this.
And my question is, can we find out what happened between 2 and 3, right? There's got to be a marked difference. We want to know the story, what's going there. And then mathematics wise, I mean, they're just not even on the charts and what it looks like. Are they even teaching math? Are they teaching just French?
See the effect.
Are they teaching math in French? I don't know. I'm not trying to make light of it, but are the kids not getting it? What's the cause for them not performing? I think that's what we want to understand.
See the effect. We need the cause.
Yeah.
Yep. And
Year two scores were significantly higher. Even than year one.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah, if we kept that trajectory, we should be seeing even better scores in year 3. But we see even if we're measuring, and maybe our teacher of the year math can come and say, hey, this is what our ratio is based on the different cut scores, and we can see where the line is, right? But
yeah.
I think if we look at year 1 and year 3, if we're using that,
Mhm.
we're seeing a decline.
On the whole, yes, I would agree with you. And so I think it's going to be absolutely imperative that the school make this a very important piece that they look into, because I know that, with their strive for success, I know they're going to want to know why so that they can rectify it going forward.
All right, other questions? Because we obviously want to know why. Hopefully we can get an update.
Too important to not only we were talking about the kids, but just maybe turnover from administration down to all the way down. If there's been some significant change, maybe that we do know that and I just don't know that. Or if they've changed what they've changed in the teaching or the turnover or just anything like that. Because you look through all of it and all of those third grade scores are very, very concerning.
In our agency or among our staff or board, do we have a checklist of questions to inquire about as to when we see a drop in academic performance, then these are the things we check? It's just a common template, to make sure we're covering every base. And, it's not a complex if this, then go here, go to page 37. But, just some sort of a template set of questions that we ordinarily ask.
Ms. was very organized in her way of addressing our schools and looking at the data and organizing. Now, remember that this report is coming up because they're getting toward the end of their contract term. And so they will be before you soon with their application for renewal, making their case as to what they are able to do for kids.
Yeah, well, and then if you were to take our weighted score, if we've changed our weights, the academic performance is a larger weight than it's currently been in the past.
I thought you might ask that question, actually. So if we applied the current weights to their current academic performance, to all of the performance frameworks, they would have scored a 68.4 instead of a 74.2 0.24. And so while that is a significant reduction, even with the new weights, it still would have put them in the same category of needing to do a renewal application, but not being subject to potential non-renewal.
On the financial aspects, have they rectified everything there?
I think there's still some ongoing concern financially. That there weren't anything major, which is why they still got an 85. But if your days cash on hand, we have a pretty low threshold. You know, some places want you to have 30 or 60 or 90 days cash on hand. Ours is 30 days cash on hand. So for 3 out of 4 quarters, they didn't even have 30 days cash at the end of the month, and that's a little concerning.
I think what's concerning to me too is, if I'm looking at this right, like 1.1.1.1 and 1.1.2 are just like our students achieving, but then the 1.1.3 our students enrolled in the school for 3 or more consecutive academic years, which would address like any sort of churn. And just, I didn't do the math on all of these, but the third grade math drop from previous year to like this year, it's a 62.5% drop. Like that is like, I don't think that's explained wholly by the
Cut
change in
scores.
cut score.
No, I would agree with you completely.
That's, yeah, 62.5% reduction. And I mean, and we can kind of like look through there at the rest of them, and like 70 to 40 is probably a 70% reduction.
It's just more common. One thing that we, in my previous role, we would try to help schools like this that might be going through this type of period by figuring out if other practitioners could come to the table, you know, in the network of charter schools across the state. So I wonder if at some point we as a body can encourage that behavior, even help facilitate that type of behavior. And I'm thinking about Chris Brewster at Santa Fe and how he took ownership of portions of his schools that were not doing as well as he felt they should have been.
Mhm.
And he really dug in and tried to figure out what was going on and completely turned around the Santa Fe model. I mean, there were portions of it that were doing quite well, but he's really, over the past couple of years, started to knock it out of the park. And so I just wonder if we could start bringing some of those folks to the table for convenings or whatever it might be, areas of practice, you know, trying to exchange best practices to try to help with data-driven instruction. It's just a thought.
Yeah. Well, here's what I will say from the agency perspective. We've got 12 schools under us. This is our first performance framework of this year, and we're going to do 11 more over the next couple of months. And admittedly, it's a lot of work for our academic compliance officer. Now, by the time summer comes around, presuming that governor and the legislature approve, our new rules will be in place. We're gonna pivot and take the results of these performance frameworks, and for those schools that need a corrective action plan, we're going to design a corrective action plan. And, you know, to your point, Jared, that's where we would expect a laundry list of questions and for our academic compliance officer to circle with these school leaders, like, you know, possibly Chris Brewster, to not only work directly with the school, but hopefully get some information that we can then disseminate to all of the schools so that as the years progress, we can see improvement.
All right, any other comments in regards to this? So we'll get a report back, hopefully maybe some answers to these questions in the future, especially as we're looking at these other schools.
Yes, sir.
All right, moving on. We'll go on to 8B. Action, presentation, discussion, and possible action regarding the approval or rejection of the National Ben Gamla Jewish Charter School Foundation, Inc. revised application for initial authorization.
Yes, thank you. So under Title 70, subsection 3-134 of the Oklahoma Charter Schools Act, the applicant may submit a revised application for reconsideration to the proposed sponsor within 30 days after receiving notification of rejection. The proposed sponsor shall accept or reject the revised application within 30 days of its receipt. So the notice of rejection letter outlining the 10 reasons for rejection was received by the applicant on February 17th of 2026. Ben Gamla Jewish Charter School submitted a revised application in the form of addendum on Friday, February 27th, 2026. Upon agency staff review of the revised application, the applicant was found to have sufficiently resolved 9 out of the board's 10 concerns. For instance, the applicant attests to adhere to all applicable laws and regulations required of virtual charter schools in Oklahoma, including board member residency requirements, Open Meeting Act requirements, and having a parent or grandparent on the board. The statements of assurances were executed for 7 board members, all of which reside in Oklahoma, with one member anticipating to be the parent board member. And I forgot to put this in here, but the statement of assurances wording was also updated to align with exactly what's required by statute. That being said, the religious tenets of the application are still present. So there is one item, the requirement to be non-sectarian, that the revised application does not resolve. As the board is aware, the Oklahoma Charter School Act states that a charter school shall be non-sectarian. Further, the Supreme Court of Oklahoma concluded that under Oklahoma law, a charter school is a public school and as such must be non-sectarian. Finally, the Supreme Court of the United States ordered that the judgment of the Supreme Court of Oklahoma is affirmed. So I'll leave it to the board for questions, discussion, and whatever action it deems appropriate.
So obviously we had lengthy discussion last time. I would say this is more formality. I don't think we need to get quite into the weeds as much since we've had that lengthy discussion. So more or less, they've corrected everything other than this religious teaching component. Is that correct? Just want to make sure to reiterate.
That's the agency staff review perspective. I think our general counsel
I think
is
our legal counsel
raising
probably
his
views that as
finger.
well.
So in the actual rejection letter that we sent to the school, the one thing that I felt was non-responsive, and today I will say that staff did update me that we received all statements of assurances, so that was something that came in, but I just feel that the response on the actual enrollment, the material discrepancies, that was not sufficiently.
You mean from their LOI from 40 to
Yeah,
potentially
but-
400?
Big, disparate, gaps that seem to not be really responded to, and so I would just point that out to the board. The board has moved to reject incomplete or inadequate applications, and I believe, we believe that the discrepancies, the material discrepancies in grade cert and the enrollment numbers, I just think there's a giant gap there.
I would say, I don't think that's a material difference. Maybe there's a higher demand once they continue to put it out because the numbers can solve, if they can figure out how to teach all those kids. But I'll call it the heart of their application hasn't changed. Just maybe the number of students is what you're saying from their LOI versus their revised application. Yeah.
Especially what the board heard from the oral presentation in January, I think there was a number of 15, 20 of what I heard, the people that I can reach out to, couple that with the community statements by the Jewish community. There just seems to be discrepancy here on what the action is involved.
Yeah. I don't know if that would, again, in my opinion, it wouldn't be a material difference why we would reject a school like that. I think there's enough reason we're gonna issue. I think we all know what the end up outcome is gonna be here, but it's for the record of why we're rejecting them and why would we be rejecting them. So that would be up open for discussion. I don't know if anybody else thinks it's a material issue because of their LOI, letter of intent, this 40 versus what their application. Mr. Gardenhire?
I think bottom line is we have a writ of mandamus, and that's the holding of the state Supreme Court. I have my own personal disagreements with that, including their historical revisionism about our Blaine Amendment. We do in fact have a Blaine Amendment in our state constitution, and its origins are other Blaine amendments around the country. And as you pointed out in the last meeting, that is a question more likely for state voters. But it is a part of our state's history. It's unfortunate. But that said, we have a state Supreme Court opinion that is a writ of mandamus. It's quite clear.
Any other comments on this?
I agree with Damon's comments, and just on the particulars of the 10 items that are improved in this application, in the renewed application. I found that number 4 was maybe the weakest, but still not a reason to deny the application. As far as I was concerned about the separation between the organizing, the leadership of the educational management organization that they would hire. So they simply said, we're not going to hire that organization. We're going to choose a new one according to Oklahoma statute. So it's sort of a promise to, upon approval, then we'll hire the right one. So I just wanted to say I thought that was the weakest, but all 10 were pretty solid revisions to the application, in my opinion.
Excluding the one.
It's decent. It's just the weakest. And I just thought of the weakest, the others are stronger.
All right. Any other further discussion? All right. In that case, we will entertain a motion to potentially, go ahead, Mr. Pearson.
Make a motion. I move to deny the revised application for initial authorization for the National Ben Gamla Jewish Charter School Foundation Incorporated for the reasons stated on the record by board staff and council.
Okay, well, okay, you sure you want to second that motion based on what our council is? But there is a motion on the floor. We will consider debate on that. I don't think we should, I'm gonna tell you why I'm gonna vote no on the motion. Now, I think we're going to need to reject this school no matter what, but our council has stated that because of their belief of the difference in number of school, and Ms. Gardenhire, you made a second. So you made the second based on what our council had said too. So I just want to make sure we're getting it right for that. So there's a motion on the floor. If somebody would like to second it, they can, or we can amend the motion. I personally don't think the reasons that our council stated for the number of students from their LOI versus what they potentially would enroll would be enough for us to reject that application. I think there's enough just simply on the religious teaching aspect of it. I want to make sure we get our motions right for the record. So if somebody would like to, or if you would like to amend the motion, I don't know if you want to or not.
Amend the motion.
If you want to, you can.
I can amend the motion. And I amend the motion to eliminate recommendation from the board's council to purpose and reason for denying the application is based on the mandamus mentioned and secretary clause within Title VII.
Okay. I think that seems, again, I would support that motion myself, but if someone else would like to second that motion, I wholeheartedly agree with you, Ms. Pearson. And so forgive me for parsing words, but this is what our attorneys like to do, right?
Could I hear the whole content of the whole motion at once?
Yes, I was thinking about that for
For
board secretary as well, to make sure we have it correct.
I move to deny the revised application for initial authorization for the National and Gamla Jewish Charter School Foundation for the reasons stated on the record by the board, staff, the mandamus order from the courts, and the secular clause that is contained within Title 70 state law for schools.
Thank you. I understand it better.
Okay. Anybody would like to second the motion?
Did you say?
I'll second that.
All right. Any debate? Okay, call for a vote.
Dr. Campbell,
Yes.
Mr. Buswell,
Yes.
Mr. Pearson,
Yes.
Ms. Anderson,
Yes.
Mr. Gardenhire,
Yes.
Mr. Shallon,
Yes.
Ms. Wise,
Yes.
Ms. Tomshow,
Yes.
Mr. Akoskas. Mr. Chairman, the motion carries.
Motion carries. So they've been rejected. Here we go. All right, moving on to 8C. Action review, discussion, and possible action regarding the procurement of outside legal counsel in accordance with 74 OS 20I for potential or anticipated litigation. As we know, Ben Gamla has indicated that they plan to litigate this matter, which we just rejected them for the religious beliefs. Mr. Snyder's been very helpful in giving us counsel on this. I want to bring to light, last month, we approved the 20I request. As Port has already said, we would like to have outside counsel. I wanted to involve a few of our board members, obviously without having a quorum. So I asked Mr. Buswell, Mr. Pearson, and Mr. Gardenhire to join me in some conference calls with two that we know are very outstanding. I had done some work prior to reaching out to others, but those conference calls were with Alliance Defending Freedom and First Liberty. I think both those firms are outstanding. Obviously, ADF had represented us in the past. They did an excellent job in representing us in Oklahoma and also at the U.S. Supreme Court. But I wanted to make sure that we had objectivity in the situation where we face today. And so what I'd like to do, before I just give all of my opinion, I want to open up to those board members who were part of those conversations and let them share with you. I would have loved to have all of us, but we would violate the open meetings laws, or we would have had to have a executive session and have them both come in. I just didn't think that was the best respect of all our board members' time. So if those board members who participated, I'd like to have you guys share your opinions and your thoughts in regards to those two firms, and then we can open it up to discussion with the entire board here.
Sure. I mean, my impression is both very highly qualified to do the work. I walked away impressed with both. I don't know that I walked away with some sort of definitive, glaring difference between the two entities. They both do very similar work, and I felt like they were both qualified. So really, whichever we land on, I think is probably going to do an excellent job at the end of the day.
Is it all right for you to share kind of your perspective of what you thought could potentially help our board in, one of those decisions?
Sure. I mean, one of them actually has a few more geographically located attorneys and may have a better understanding of idiosyncrasies related to Oklahoma, our history, our constitution with burning point of kerosene in it, things like that. One of the strangest constitutions on the planet. And so they might have a better up close and personal view on some of the things that we're dealing with, as opposed to the other group.
So to add some clarity to the other board members, I think it's fair to say that every board member who was on the calls think that legally in the court, both firms would represent us equally as well, meaning they were both excellent, of the highest caliber. They would be both part of the A team. And again, this is no reflection that we don't think Mr. Thomas or Thomas Schneider's not an A-team attorney. We've already discussed that. We think you're excellent. But I think there's one of the key factors that Mr. Gardenhire's, there's 3 attorneys that are with First Liberty who are from Oklahoma and have strong Oklahoma ties. 3 of them are already on the 20I list and are representing the state in other matters as well currently. That weighs in, and that would be First Liberty. Does that add the clarity that you're trying to seek, Mr. Gardenhire? Yep. Okay.
Also, I want to reiterate that there's not a difference in financial cost between the two firms.
Correct. Whereas there were some people we talked about, or you talked with early on, they would be charging us and our agency would pay. Both of these firms would represent us pro bono.
Mm-hmm.
I would say there were pros and cons.
Mhm.
Both firms are nonprofit organizations that specialize in religious freedom.
Mhm.
Because they are nonprofit, that's the pro. We're not spending any of our money. But I'm reminded constantly of something I've lived with all my life, that there's no such thing as a free lunch.
Mhm.
That there's always a catch to it. I'm not sure what that catch is. The con was that, I believe it's ADF was one of those.
Yeah.
Did I get that correct?
ADF and First Liberty.
ADF is exactly the same firm that represented this board against the state of Oklahoma. Again, at the Oklahoma Supreme Court and the U.S. Supreme Court. So I see a con is at
perception that why is the board going to same law firm that they used last time to fight the state with the state law and state constitution? I agree with Damon that Liberty is the other nonprofit specializing in religious freedom. Has a majority, I would say, of their attorneys that are Oklahoma citizens or have familiarity with Oklahoma. The con with the two is that I have firsthand experience that they collaborated against the last lawsuit constantly. So those are some issues. So if I'm left with ADF or Liberty, my recommendation would go to Liberty because of perception reasons, because of their Oklahoma connections, their familiarity with the case. They haven't argued the case while they participated in the background. They are very familiar with Oklahoma law and the Constitution, particular statutes that we're dealing with. So I see this as a law firm that wants another bite at the apple. Is how I see it. And so, like I said, my recommendation would be to go to Liberty.
So to echo a little bit more what is, to give you a little bit more insight, ADF is currently representing a school in Tennessee. This issue is percolating in the state of Tennessee as well. Just so you're aware, their attorney general had issued a statement to the opposite of our current attorney general that actually is exactly as our previous attorney general. Obviously, people with legal minds seem to have this debate going back and forth. The difference there is one of the schools wanted to apply and their board wouldn't even let them accept the application. So they didn't get a yes or no vote. ADF is representing one of those schools. One of the advantages I think First Liberty would bring is that we would have our own sole counsel versus ADF representing. If these things end up consolidating later on, one of the advantages of having our own attorney is representing our interests, not necessarily always looking at the interests of another party they could potentially be representing as well. I hope that makes sense. Does everyone understand that? So if anybody's been in litigation, you don't want your attorney to have to cut the baby. So, but Mr. Buswell.
A quick question. I don't remember 2 years ago, perhaps because I was new or the way events worked out. I don't remember having to make a decision between hiring either of these good choices, ADF or First Liberty. But is there any reason why we chose ADF at that time that bears relevance to today's discussion?
It was in fact, Mr. Pearson was on the board of the virtual board who chose ADF. And so the decision was made prior
That's
to
right. That's right.
to us, this agency.
Prior to this body.
Yeah, correct. Questions from other board members? It's a big deal choosing your attorney. So we want to make sure we get it right, but you were on those phone calls as well.
Yeah, I was very comfortable. I also experienced working with ADF as our representatives, our counsel, utmost professionalism, excellence in every aspect. Even in meetings that weren't scheduled, just walking around Washington, D.C., waiting in line at the Supreme Court, the way they handled the whole situation was top notch. And so I just couldn't say enough about how excellently they did.
Yeah. And I will say this, both firms are very complementary towards one another. And as Ms. Pearson said, they have worked on the same side of previous litigation. Even the firm that potentially is going to represent Ben Gamla has been in that same arena. We understand that. But I think having the fidelity of an attorney who will represent solely us in this interest, I think is an imperative fact that I don't want to set aside. I think ADF is phenomenal. They are great. I think First Liberty is outstanding and phenomenal as well. So it comes down to what we want to choose as a board. And I can tell you, I based on being truly objective of where the facts are, I would lean towards First Liberty based on where we stand. it would probably be a little bit harder for us and our staff. So our apologies to, if we go forward, because ADF is very familiar with our process. They know everything about us. So there's a whole nother, I would say, familiarity we would have to happen. But our job is to make decisions for the best for the state of Oklahoma that represents this board's values as well. So I know it's might be harder.
Yeah.
I see the disappointment. But I think if we weigh the decisions, we have to be objective in doing that. So for that reason, I would probably choose First Liberty, being objective, not just emotional or tie. If the easy choice would be yeah, let's just do the ADF. They already understand Oklahoma law. I think First Liberty does as well. They were one of the two finalists in the previous consideration, so I don't think they were.
That is one thing I was going to add, is that when even the statewide virtual charter school board was making this same decision, both of these firms were at the top of their list and received the same compliments and the same confidence in the two.
We, in the midst of these conversations, we asked some in-depth questions, just trying to get to some substantial difference between the two firms. I noted that in one of the answers, and I don't have the exact paperwork in front of me, but that to my knowledge, First Liberty is currently partnered with Beckett Fund on a case in Washington State. And that may be perceived as some sort of, too close of a partnership with that particular firm that may or may not be on the opposite end of a potential case. And so I just, just getting down to those little things, I lean more comfortable with ADF, but I'd be excited about either option.
In ADF, just in full disclosure, I talked to Jim Campbell, who argued for us in front of the Supreme Court just last week. And we talked about that exact issue because they have partnered with Beckett in the past. So they have a good relationship with them. They don't currently have any co-litigation. But he said it's probably been about 10 years since they've been on the same side partnering together. So I think it's a very good observation. And we have AJ Ferrati here. Would that potentially be an issue? You can just answer from there. In regards to Beckett.
The podium would be better.
Yeah, that's fine. So you would be
On the record.
on the record.
Yes.
And on video.
Good afternoon, board. My name is AJ Ferrati. I'm an attorney with Spencer Fain here in town, and I've been a volunteer attorney with First Liberty for 12 years. Sorry, 12 years now. So it's good to be with you this afternoon. I think the specific question that's being asked is there any issue between Beckett and First Liberty as far as trying to process this litigation? I would say the answer is no. There's enough attorneys in each organization that they work on one case over here and another case over here, separate from each other. And in law firms, and the rules of ethics really just kind of require walls that it's referred to, I think, as a Chinese wall within legal ethics, where you just wall yourself off from what's going on the other side, and you don't discuss it, and you don't know what's going on or anything like that. And so, even if it were considered to be some sort of an issue, I would say no, that there's not. And I can say for one, as a volunteer attorney, I'm not involved in that Washington State issue, and I would actually be involved in this matter.
So the Chinese wall is because it's a Chinese Great Wall.
No,
I just didn't know if Trump would take offense if he didn't call it a border wall or something like that,
I don't know if it's a Great Wall or what. That's never actually been explained. But I think my ethics professor in law school, it was one of those little dividing walls that it's there. It's to separate the two. But great. I don't know. It could be great if you want to.
It's a Chinese.
It's a Chinese wall.
Okay. Thank you very much. Any other questions for AG? Because I think it's important that we have that and ask. Thank you for providing that clarity.
Yeah.
All right. Any other questions from board members who were not able to be part of those calls? We want to make sure we add any clarity to that.
I think just in my opinion on a question, but just in my opinion that going with ADF again to like the things that Mr. Pearson said. I think that those conflicts of having represented us before and also them representing a case in Tennessee, that is a big con in my book. So that's not,
Yes.
Thank you for indulging me again. I just got notice when I went back to my seat that that case is over in Washington State, so there is no issue there.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you. So that one's done. That resolves that, right?
Yes.
So they've been in a case in the past, one more recent than the other, but the ADF and.
Yeah.
And
The point of my statement was to say that we're really splitting hairs here between
Yeah.
two good options. It's good to have good options. My instinct is to really trust Brian as far as a person who's really spoken face to face the most with these two firms and has talked to employees and just kind of navigating the whole way. I really kind of trust his perspective on this.
well, I wanted to involve really these other board members, not just rely on myself, and I appreciate their time to come and spend time with each of those firms via conference call. And I think your insight, and I felt that was very, very helpful too. So.
And just to be clear, the First Liberty is the one that's more familiar with Oklahoma State Constitution.
Well, they have 3 attorneys that are actually from Oklahoma. And AJ Ferrati being one of them is right here on Broadway Extension and Britton Road. So very, very close, but they would use the entirety of their firm to represent us, but there's out of the 4 attorneys that they would use, 3 of them are from Oklahoma.
It might just be interesting to mention that when we were represented by ADF, that we also had a need for a second firm here in Oklahoma that provided some of that Oklahoma context, helped with filings, that sort of thing. And that would not be necessary with the other firm.
Yep.
Mr. Chairman?
Yep.
I'd like to make a motion
Okay, absolutely, Mr. Pearson.
that board selects Liberty,
First Liberty.
First Liberty, as our 20I selection to represent the board in any potential legal action brought about by the rejection of Ben Gamla Foundation to a school application.
There's a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, any further debate? Okay, call for a vote.
Mr. Pearson,
Yes.
Dr. Campbell,
Yes.
Ms. Anderson,
Yes.
Mr. Buswell,
Yes.
Mr. Shell,
Yes.
Ms. Toncho,
Yes.
Mr. OKSCSB, Ms. Heidi,
Yes.
sorry, Wallace, Mr. Gardenhire.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, motion carries.
Motion's carries. Congratulations, First Liberty. All right.
One thing that I would say as a closing comment, that we will work closely with First Liberty to establish a contract and then to complete the application that will go to Attorney General Drummond to make the decision as to whether or not he will approve outside counsel for this board.
Thank you for doing that. Moving on to item 9, new business, and something that was brought, maybe I shouldn't have mentioned this earlier, but Miss Heidi has recent nuptials and she's a newlywed. So congratulations to her. And again, congratulations to you and your entire family. So no other further new business?
No,
Okay.
you scared me there for a minute, but I love this new business.
All right. With that understanding, let's move on to item 10, entertain a motion for adjournment.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Call for a vote.
Ms. Wallace,
Yes.
Ms. Thompson,
Yes.
Mr. Pearson,
Yes.
Ms. Anderson,
Yes.
Mr. Gardenhire,
Yes.
Mr. Shell,
Yes.
Dr. Campbell,
Yes.
Mr. Buswell,
Yes.
Mr. OKSCSB. Chairman, motion carries.
All right, we're adjourned. Thank you so much.